Welcome back to another episode of Home Sweet Home. I'm your host, Rod McCall.
And I am your co-host, Bryce Runge.
Hey, co-host.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, well, I'm learning how to communicate.
I survived a car ride with Rod McCall right now. We just got back and,
And?
Random comment, but we didn't die.
You know, that's not really a random comment. That should be applauded. Most importantly, I was practicing patience, and I didn't yell at a single individual. So, hey, you know, we're making progress. Maybe I am starting to utilize some of the concepts that we talk about.
I do recognize the change in your driving and your lack. Yes. Anyways.
Hey, we were.
I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you. You know, that kind of fits in with what we're talking about. I wanted us to talk about today, and that is communication.
Oh yeah.
I have learned better late than never that what starts in my mind and exits my mouth and is received by other people's ears doesn't follow the same kind of pattern or logic. What I think, what I say, and what you hear don't line up a lot of times the correct way.
Okay.
I don't know. Have you ever had that as an issue?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it. And we've mentioned this in a previous episode with Stephen R. Covey, right? There's that disconnect because the person receiving is already trying to or formulating their response to something you said instead of fully listening to you and what you have to say in order to better understand where you're coming from.
Mm-hmm. The listening to respond versus the listening to understand.
Correct.
Well, having gone through divorce and learning better how to work with other people, I understand that communication is extremely important. And again, I didn't do very well with this in my first marriage, and I'm learning and talking with a lot of folks that I'm not alone. Right. That a lot of times we struggle with what we're thinking, what we're saying, and how it's received. And I was reminded of a guy by the name of Gary Chapman. Okay. He wrote a book back in the early 90s that was talking about love languages. Okay. And a lot of times when we're talking to people, to our spouses, to our kids, to, our friends, people that we like to be around, and again, it's something I have an issue with a lot of times. I'm thinking, I'm saying, you're hearing. Mm-hmm. And when they're not all online, it creates conflict.
Sure.
And so I thought maybe, you and I could talk a little bit about, the 5 love languages that Chapman identified. Yeah. And they are words of affirmation, quality time, receiving gifts, acts of service, and physical touch.
Right.
And they say that we all have various levels of these that we respond to.
Right.
And in doing a lot of self-reflection over the last number of years, I kind of better understood what Chapman is saying with these different love languages.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I haven't read the book, but I've read into the 5 love languages. Mm-hmm. And I have grown to appreciate and understand that we all have one, maybe 2 of them. Mm-hmm. But what I also better understood is that all too often we apply one of these languages, but it doesn't line up with the relationship we have with, or my wife or your wife, or it doesn't line up because we hadn't figured it out. What's your love language?
Yes.
So this is something that it's important to us here in our family. We know what each other's love language is. We know how to love one another.
Yeah.
I don't love Suzanne the way I love her the way that she needs to be loved.
Okay.
I love her, and I understand what her love language is.
Mm-hmm.
Before all, this and that, I didn't know. I didn't have a clue what this was. But yeah, I think this is really powerful, and we also see, because there isn't an understanding of, hey, I know what my spouse's or my kid's love language is.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't understand that, what ends up happening? We end up encountering conflict.
Sure. And sometimes conflict that we didn't know existed.
Right.
Because we're both speaking English, but what you're hearing isn't what I'm saying, because we may be tuned into the radio, but not the right frequency or right radio station.
Exactly. Well, why don't you take us in a little more in depth with each of these 5 love languages, if you don't mind.
Sure. No.
And if you'll start with the words of affirmation. This one's dear to me because that's my love language.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I just got to tell you, Bryce, I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
You've made a lot of changes, a lot of positives, and you are making a huge impact on the life of a large number of people.
Well, thank you.
So I'm proud of you.
I appreciate that.
Okay, so that's words of affirmation.
Yes.
I mean, words of affirmation is basically, if I understand what Chapman is trying to share with us, the idea that saying thank you. You don't need to go to extravagant lengths. You don't need to, get an airplane and skywrite thank you. Just a simple little, hey, you know what? Thanks for taking the garbage out. I appreciate you doing that. You really helped me out.
Yeah.
You mowed the yard today. Thank you. You emptied the dishwasher. I know it's not a big deal probably to you, but to me it was a big deal. So I just want to say thank you.
Sure.
And I'm trying to get better at words of affirmation. I mean, I like to be told. I don't necessarily need it, but it does help me feel better.
Mm-hmm.
One of the old principals we had, Mr. Wright, he used to come, he'd send me, on our birthdays.
Oh, yeah.
We would get a little card from him, and he didn't have to do it, but it meant a lot to me that he would give me words of affirmation, wishing me a happy birthday, but also saying, hey, I appreciate you. You are valued.
Right.
And I think that with words of affirmation, that's kind of what we're looking for. And if your partner or family member, that's their love language, I mean, how hard is it for you to say to someone, thank you?
Right.
Thanks, Braddox, for cleaning the bathroom.
Speaking of, you mentioned mowing the yard. Hold on one second. Braddox! You need to mow the yard.
We'll see how long that takes to do.
Yeah. Anyways.
Is that his love language, telling him what to do?
Telling him what to do. His is quality time.
Oh, okay.
His is quality time.
So when we're finished up here, you're going to go grab the weed whacker and
I'm going to go watch him mow the yard. This is quality time, son.
Okay. Sit on the back porch and enjoy that juice cleanse.
Oh.
Well,
I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's words of affirmation. You mentioned quality time. Again, Chapman's talking about it's not what you do, it's how you use your time.
Right.
With Eric, this was something that I tried to communicate with him. We didn't have to do extravagant things. We just would do things together.
Right.
We would build puzzles, play with Legos, Tinker Toys, Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
But we would play together. And for me, that's that quality time is something that, I enjoy.
Right.
I don't know if this is entirely my top love language, but when it's with people I like, I just enjoy, we don't have to do hardly anything.
Just be in the presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I enjoy their company. And I think that's important to spend that quality. It's not the quantity.
Right.
It's the quality. Now, sometimes it's quantity too.
Yeah.
But it's, you don't have to go to Six Flags. You don't have to go to, do fancy, expensive things.
Yeah.
I think it's just, turn off the TV, put your phone down, and let's engage as humans.
Right.
Now, maybe you play a video game. Maybe you and Braddock play a video game together. Show you how far back we go. Eric and I used to play Farmville together on Facebook.
Okay.
That's how I got started on Facebook 11 years ago, was using, he wanted to play Farmville.
Got it.
His mom set him up an account, but because where she was, we couldn't use his account with her, so I created a Facebook account so that way he could play Farmville when he came to visit me.
Got it.
But we would play together. I'd say, hey, how does this work? Show me how this works.
Yeah.
And so then we would, but we would play that together.
Yeah.
We'd go down to the pool and we'd swim. I don't know if that was necessarily his love language, but we weren't using, we weren't, I don't know. I guess I was invested in helping make memories with him.
Right.
By physically engaging.
Yeah. And I think it doesn't need to be over the top. If your kids or spouse love language is quality time, when it comes down to it, it's about the little things.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the most important things. And so, but I like what you said, and it's, like even with Braddock's, it's sitting there playing a video game. We're sitting on the couch together watching a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's creating a memory for him, and that's something that, like you said, like how can we create these memories? Because and in line with that love language.
I look back, and I spend a little more time maybe than I should, but I like to kind of travel down memory lane.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been scanning photos that my mother took from super long ago, and I've been scanning them into the computer, and I'm having fun.
Are these of you?
Well, I'm finally now in the family photos, yes. But it was when my mom and dad got married, and when my sisters were born, and moving to Kansas. I don't know, just all kinds of different things. But it's kind of fun. Yeah. And I'm enjoying, oh my gosh, that family. I remember that family. I remember hearing that name. But again, it's that quality time. It's those memories.
Right.
The third one that Chapman talked about is receiving gifts.
Who doesn't like receiving gifts?
I like receiving gifts.
I'm like,
let me buy you lunch.
I'm on a Jews cleanse.
Let me buy me lunch and you can watch me eat. See, I'm buying a gift. No, okay. I don't think that's actually what was intended. I mean, you're right. We all like to receive gifts.
Sure.
But I think that sometimes I'm reminded of a movie, Sean Connery film, Finding Forrester.
Okay.
And in there he says, an unexpected gift at an unexpected time.
Mm-hmm.
And that really struck a chord with me. That, it doesn't, okay, it's a birthday, it's Christmas, Valentine's Day, whatever the issue might be, that, you normally give a gift, but sometimes just a little thing.
Right.
I have found that, okay, I'll pick up a little thing of flowers and I'll bring, just, hey, I was thinking of you, and here's a bouquet of flowers.
Right.
And it's nothing big. It's not expensive. It's not extravagant. Of course, I know the price of flowers keep going up. It will become extravagant.
I usually go to the discount section. I mean, sorry. Hope she doesn't listen to this episode.
But it is, again, we all like to. And I have discovered, and of course, I didn't really pay attention to love languages when I was married the first time, but I think that my ex-wife, this was her love language. Mm-hmm. But she thought everybody else had the same love language because she would buy gifts for people.
Right.
We'll take up dinner tonight, or we'll take you to the movies, or we'll buy you this extravagant gift or that extravagant gift. She would frequently see something and go, ooh, I think your mom would like that, Rod. Mm-hmm. And so she would buy it.
Yeah.
I think because, again, at the time, I didn't really appreciate love languages. I saw it because this is not my love language. Mm-hmm. I saw it as trying to buy people off.
Got it.
And so when she would do this, I misunderstood. At least I think again, with looking back, I think I misunderstood.
Right.
Now maybe part of it was, but I don't think it was entirely designed around buying people off with gifts. Mm-hmm. I think that was just how she showed love.
Sure.
And so, I don't know how people respond.
Right. Well, and that's something, not speaking ill, but there was no intention. It was just, this is what I love, so everyone else has to love what I love, right? So I'm going to buy you gifts, and I've learned that because I know what my wife's love language is, and it's not receiving gifts. Mm-hmm. So early on, I learned right away that I would buy some gifts. It wasn't over the top, it wasn't really cheap or anything. It was just kind of middle of the road, whatever it was, and I can't remember. That I would almost walk away kind of like, wow, I'm like a little disappointed because I thought she'd be over the top, oh, this is amazing. And it wasn't that at all. And she finally, we communicated about these things, and I really wish you wouldn't do these, buy these things. And, and regardless if she's specific in certain areas, that's not her love language. Mm-hmm. And I've learned that if I'm going to buy her something, knowing that that's not her language, then I could easily be offended.
Sure.
And to them, it's like, well, I don't like gifts, and you bought me something knowing that you don't like that I don't like gifts, so right, and that's maybe not even my taste, or like my mom does this all the time, and God bless her. She's got a closet that's full of gifts that she started from 1970. Okay, I swear when she mails us stuff, like she mailed Suzanne this like blouse, if you will, and I said, "Give me that blouse and let me smell it." And I smelled it, and I knew
mothballs.
It's from my mom's closet from 1980. But that's. I'm going to give you gifts, kind of like with your ex-wife. I have all these things I'm going to give. Okay, but she would do that with all of our kids and our spouses, and sure. It's like, well.
And if that's not your love language, then the intention it is given with is not the understanding it is received with.
Right.
Which can then lead to a conflict because, well, you didn't like what I gave you.
Right.
Well, I spent this time picking it out. I spent this money thinking that it would make you happy, and you're going, I don't give a shit.
Right.
Now, well, I'm offended that you're not more appreciative. Well, aren't you just a selfish individual?
Right.
And now what started out as a kindness act has now de-evolved into I'm really angry with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're on the receiving end, you're going, I don't understand why you're angry.
Exactly.
I didn't ask for this. I didn't want this. I don't like this. So, now I'm getting kind of offended too, because, and now again, something that was meant to be wonderful has turned into something horrific.
Yeah, now we got a mess.
Yeah. And it's all because, again, not understanding. We're not listening. And
we're not having that communication. We're lacking in that communication. We're not having those conversations up front. But again, going back, well, this is what I like, so everyone else must like it too. No, that's not correct.
Mm-hmm. And it's I guess that's that issue that I really, I guess that's why this, when I was reading through this, I go, this is something I wanted us to talk about, because it is that communication, that listening to understand. Because if we're listening to understand the nonverbal subtle cues, as well as the direct verbal cues of, I don't want this, I don't like this, you're tuning in.
Right.
And you're right. I think a lot of times we assume that just because we like it, others will too.
Right.
And so therefore, I can see where, this is the idea of receiving gifts can be misconstrued.
Mm-hmm,
and if it's your love language, that's fine. But is it the person you're communicating with, is it their love language?
Yeah.
And if it is, then a little thing. I can remember early college, I was dating a girl, and she would actually get a little card, a little note, and it would, be an envelope or something, and it would be on my windshield. And whether I was coming out from work or from college class, and every now and then, there would be something there. And I thought, oh, that's really cool.
That's nice.
I don't know if that was my love language of receiving gifts, but sometimes maybe that's all it is.
Right. Something that when we talked to my mom, she had mentioned, about thank you notes, and just it's something that I do. I've been asked, like, oh, what sets you apart? I'm like, I could go on about different things, but specifically at work, not that I know their love language, and maybe this is off topic a little bit, but you talk about notes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those thank you notes. Or those appreciation notes, or those words of encouragement, like I'll leave those on people's desks,
mm-hmm.
And even if it's something simple, they help me move something. Well, they have a thank you note that next day or later that day.
Yeah.
To say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate you, even though I said thank you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I want to leave you a note, or if I didn't get a chance to talk to you, whatever, I've left you a note. You just got me on that topic because you had said with your girlfriend back in the day with leaving notes.
Anyways. Yeah, well, it obviously wasn't enough because it never really went very far.
Yeah.
But, that makes me think then, is it a gift? Are you given a gift, or is it an act of service?
Right.
Because act of service is the fourth love language.
Okay.
And, my granddaddy used to always say, actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
And is that thank you note that you were just talking about, is that an act of service? Could you call that an act of service?
I guess you could. I mean, when I view this, I see this as, hey, I'm going to serve the people that I love. Mm-hmm. Am I reading that wrong?
I don't know. Because acts of service. Okay, instead of you asking Braddix to go mow the backyard,
mm-hmm.
if he sees that it needs to be done, and he just does it, is that an act of service?
Do you hear the lawnmower yet?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I see that.
And so, it's kind of like when, you're in the kitchen and you're heating something up in the microwave for breakfast, or, a bottle for Bristol, and you see that the dishwasher has finished the course, you then unload the dishwasher. You weren't asked to. Nobody said, hey, Bryce, would you unload the dishwasher? You just saw that it needed to be done.
Right.
To me, that's an act of service.
Sure. Yeah, I see that.
You do something where it's not, nobody's asked you yet.
Right.
You're volunteering. And you're volunteering to use your time to do something for someone else. Volunteering to, If your love language is act of service, then I would say, okay, well, do you need somebody to babysit Bristol? Or Bristol and Briar, and I bring the wife over and we babysit.
Yeah.
That would be an act of service. You didn't ask me, I'm volunteering.
Right.
I don't know. Act of service, I think, is a really tough one. When I was looking at these earlier, this is a challenge for me to identify, is this really my love language? And how would I recognize this in someone else that this is their love language?
Got it.
I mean, because, I try and wonder, I try and, I don't do as well as I should, but the trash can's full. So I load up the trash and I take it out. Nobody asked me to, but I just did it. That's maybe one of my chores. Or the recycle bin is getting a little full, and so I need to take it out to the big dumpster on the curb. Yeah. And because we got a little one just outside the, in the garage, and then we've got one out by the curb. And so I don't know. This one I really struggled with how to identify if this is mine and how to recognize it in others.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. Some things that I do here are something that you mentioned earlier. I hardly, when we do these episodes, this is kind of the longest I sit still during the day.
Okay.
Like 1 speed, Charlie Sheen, go. I got 1 speed, go. Anyways, like I'm always going. And I don't necessarily think that's a healthy thing, but I'm like, it's hard to break that.
Okay.
But I'm constantly doing things. So I'm doing the dishes, or I'm taking the trash out. Well, something we've established here is like, hey, again, if you see the trash can and it's full, what should you do? Are you just going to keep piling stuff on, or are you going to take it out? So I saw Braddock's do that one day without having to say anything. I saw it. And so is that an act of service? Yeah, I would say so, because he knows that's something that we've talked about. But I try my best to always, I get up earlier than everyone else. And when I know that Suzanne's starting to get up, I got a cup of coffee going for her. I leave those notes. If I'm going to leave the house, I'm going to leave a little love note, if you will.
Sure.
Or if I'm leaving the house, I'm going to run an errand. It's a communication piece. I'm not going to peace out and say nothing. I'm going to leave a note.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not going to wake you up if she's sleeping or napping with the baby or something, but I'm going to communicate through a piece of paper. When you do wake up, you have a knowledge of where I'm at, and you're a little more at peace. And but I try and do that. I do the flower thing. I haven't once gone and purchased flowers because I was in trouble, I will add. Okay. Sometimes I often think, like, what's that person looking at me? They think I'm in trouble and I got to get flowers?
Sure.
But I haven't done it in a while, which means I think I should go to Kroger and get me some flowers.
I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah. But yeah, I do things like that. That's.
Well,
that's a hard one.
It just comes down to, again, as I was reading through this, I kept thinking again what my granddad would always say. My dad would echo it too. Actions.
Right.
Deeds, not words.
Right.
I can say I love you, but how am I demonstrating that?
Right.
And sometimes when I think about it that way, I consider, is this is this kind of a love language for me? I want you to show me.
Right.
That, because my ex-wife, she would say, love you. And, well, she said, love me the last time we were together. And then, that was on a Sunday. And on Tuesday, she filed for divorce.
Right.
So, that was kind of hollow.
Yeah.
So your actions said something different than your words. So that kind of stuff frustrates me. Yeah. You're going to say you're going to do what you say you're going to do.
Yeah. I think that not that I think. I know what we do here in our house is we believe in serving one another. Mm-hmm. There are some times we get to a place where it's like, I really don't want to do this anymore. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's that selfish part, right? Yeah. And I get it. You could do so much, and I've been there. And I think I talked to you about this, like with her parents being over, and I kind of lost it. And I didn't lose it. I didn't go wild or anything. I think I said something, I don't know, and it was offensive, but I was at my breaking point.
Yeah.
And so, but again, going back to our last episode, like that's, no matter what, you own a piece of that pie. Mm-hmm. Right. And so I had to go and reflect on that. But it's something that we're really trying to cultivate in our family is, how could we serve one another?
Yeah.
Right. And for some, that's really hard to get to. No, it's about me.
Yeah.
You're gonna serve me. This is what I want, and that's not what it's about.
My dad, it was a long time ago. I couldn't have, I don't know, maybe middle school. I take that back, maybe 5th, 6th grade. And the janitor, Mr. Perkins,
that's impressive. You remember the name?
Oh, yeah. Well, he had passed away. He had been at the school forever and a day. And so my dad organized with the Knights of Columbus at our church, and they went over and did a whole bunch of housework, from re-roofing the house, cleaning out the gutters, trimming trees. Wow. I mean, whole 9 yards. And it even attracted the attention of the local newspaper.
Really?
So they came out and they were wanting, who can we interview? And they interviewed, Mrs. Perkins, and everybody's saying, well, go interview, Marvin McCall over there. And my dad says, no, this isn't about me.
Right.
And again, I'm 10, 11 years old, and I didn't understand, and I'm going, Dad, why? You got a chance to be interviewed by the newspaper. You'd be in the newspaper. Everybody would be able to know what you did. And he goes, that's not the point.
Right.
He said, the point is for me to do something that makes people's lives better without seeking glory.
Right.
And I didn't really understand what he was saying. I mean, I heard the words, but I didn't really comprehend it until I got older in life. And I now find that I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's an act of service, but I don't need anybody to see what I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, okay, thank you for, any accolades, but we don't need to take out the front page of the Dallas Morning News.
Right.
So, again, it's very interesting. Again, trying to come up with what acts of service are, but I think they are just little things that, again, you're communicating to someone else.
Right.
I hear you. I understand you. And you're communicating, your actions are communicating to them in a way that they can understand or comprehend.
Right. No, exactly.
But
yeah, we got one more.
And this one, I think, is me. I've got elements of, words of affirmation. I like when somebody says to me, Rod, thanks. Mm-hmm. Thank you. I appreciate you doing that. Quality time is a big thing for me. Sherry and I will, we may just be watching a rerun of Blue Bloods. Mm-hmm. We've started watching Game of Thrones, but we'll watch them, in the evening together. Receiving gifts is fine. I think we've kind of talked about that, and acts of service, as well. But for me, it's physical touch. I really do believe that this is my love language. Mm-hmm. And great example, we'll be walking from the parking lot into the store, and I'll reach over and I'll grab her hand, and we'll hold hands walking into the store.
Right.
Or walking out of the store, whatever we're doing, a simple kiss goodnight, a simple kiss goodbye. Mm-hmm. When I left the house, before I came over here for us for, taping today's episode, like you said goodbye, but I gave her a kiss.
Right.
Because for me, it's physical touch.
Got it.
And, we'll be sitting watching TV and I'll just reach over or we're at the movies, and I'll reach over and I'll hold her hand.
Yeah.
To me that, and she knows that. She understands that I like that physical touch.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that is affirmation that you like me. And, COVID was a kick in the butt for me because I'm a handshake. I'm a hug.
Yeah.
I mean, I go, people that I really enjoy spending time with, I'll get a hug as a greeting, a hug as a farewell. With COVID, don't do that.
Right.
And I'm going, this really hurts.
Right.
And so physical touch is where yours was words of affirmation. Mm-hmm. Mine's physical touch. I really do believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, even they've even done science studies that go all the way back, learning about kids that, kids need, little children, infants. Bristol, she cannot really hear she can't communicate. All right, Briar cannot communicate very well, but they recognize voice.
Sure.
And physical touch communicates love.
Mm-hmm.
And so for little kids in particular, physical touch is their love language.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And we were talking about that the other night with specifically Briar and Bristol, and Suzanne's like, okay, so Bristol is different, very different, not very. They're very almost copy paste. They look like each other, first of all, but she's identified that like Bristol loves to be held.
Yeah.
Not that Briar didn't, but Briar's this little spitfire now, and she's Miss Independent. And I do think that, like, it's so funny, the other night I said, Briar, you are so pretty. And she looked at me and said, thank you, Daddy, in her little 2-year-old voice.
Uh-huh.
And she's not like a big hugger. She'll give you this awkward sideways hug, with no arms around you, leaned in, and it's like, okay, maybe it's too soon, but maybe it's words of affirmation. With Bristol, maybe it's touch. And Suzanne's kind of already like trying to identify that, like, because she remembers how Briar was at this age and how Bristol is now, and but just having that conversation and trying to identify that at this age, I think that's pretty powerful.
Well, I think too that your love language can change.
Sure.
We've talked in other episodes about our life experiences changing us. I think that can have a huge impact on, addressing, because maybe our love language is one way. I mean, think about it as a teenager. Who wouldn't want to be given stuff?
Right.
My love language is buy me crap. So the more crap you buy me, the happier I am.
I think that's where Radix is at right now. Hey, can I get this video game? That'll show you love me.
So, that would have been me too. My parents did not affirm my love language when I was a teenager, asking, buy me this, buy me that. But I think your love language can change over time. And
sure.
Going back to the influence of my parents were physical touch.
Okay.
Even to this day, a hug goodbye, a hug hello. And it wasn't just a casual pat on the back kind of thing. It's a real hug. And I always watched my dad greet people, and he would greet them with a handshake.
Right.
And he taught me, about be a handshake. Don't be a fish in the hand.
Right.
Be a handshake,
Firm grip.
Exactly. And so I think over time, as I have become an adult, physical touch is my love language.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, talking with, just you and I just now, today, talking about this, shows that not everybody's the same.
Correct.
And so, but the key part is looking and understanding for the love language, so that way, if you can understand how your intimate partners, your very good friends, how they receive the communication can help you out and maintain those friendships. And I mean, think about how much happier and more pleasant life would be if you could actually prevent an argument, a disagreement before it ever happened, simply by being an active listener to learn how does the person you're speaking to best receive, praise. How do they best receive, compliments, but also maybe complaints.
Right.
I mean, instead of saying, well, you need to fix this and you need to fix that, maybe their love language is, requires a little bit of time or an act of service. So let me work with you.
Right.
And, instead of yelling at Braddock's, man, the yard looks like crap, do it again. Show him.
Right.
Say, hey, you were in a hurry. And because you were in a hurry, we get this. So let's slow down and let me show you. Right. And let's work together. I don't know. I think that if we can better find ways to communicate what we're thinking, what we're feeling in a way that can be received with the same intention that it was delivered, I think maybe we could be a lot happier.
No, absolutely, I agree. Just in and of itself, that communication piece is paramount. We've said that before. We're probably going to continue talking about it because we really want to drive it home.
Sure.
It's such a powerful piece that you can't just avoid. You have to have it, and you have to work to improve daily in that communication area. And so, but also in these love languages we talked about, we're going to have conflict, right? We're not going to see eye to eye all the time,
sure,
right? But when we better understand people's love language, right? When we communicate more effectively with one another, we're going to resolve conflict. That's one of our core values, Suzanne and I. It's conflict resolution.
Sure.
We're going to have issues. How we respond to that through conflict resolution is what's going to help us get stronger and better. But again, that communication piece, understanding people's love language, that's what helps you create that robust relationship.
One that you enjoy having.
Yeah, that way with your wife, your spouse, your friends, your kids. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying, anyone. But you have to be intentional with it. You can't just hang out on the surface. You got to dig deep, right? And it can't be about you.
No, and when we can do this, they call that cognitive restructuring. Basically, when we recognize the negative aspect of how we've been communicating or acting with others, and then actively seek to change these thoughts or these actions with something more positive, more successful. In essence, basically, we're just trying to reshape our thoughts and our actions.
Right. No, yeah, absolutely. But again, in IMO, in my opinion, IMHO, in my humble opinion, when I've talked to, like at school, like when I've talked to staff, like when you're creating this culture, right, you have to work on it daily.
Sure.
Right. And then the moment you stop, like you forget or you care less about being intentional, the quicker it can fall.
Sure.
And so you have to be intentional and you have to work on it daily. You have to have the mindset like, we're going to grow through these things. Okay. We're going to fail. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to miss the mark. Okay. But if we have the mindset that whatever challenges we encounter, that we're going to grow through it together. We're going to grow through this as a family. Okay. We're going to communicate more effectively. We understand people's love languages. We know how to love each other. Then we're going to continue creating that and helping build those thriving relationships. We're going to help create that legacy.
Sure. And, I didn't pull it up. I thought about it. I thought maybe we could do it. But then I thought, well, that might be a little too time consuming. But they do have a quiz. You can go online and take a quiz and figure out your love language and have your friends and partners take it. And you can learn their love language. Get a little bit of cheat sheet.
Yeah. No, hey, I agree. If you have time, you know what? Make time.
If it's important to you,
make time.
Yes.
Yeah, make time. How long does the quiz take? A few minutes?
I don't know. I didn't try it.
Okay, me neither. But you and I have read enough. Yes. We've applied. I don't know how.
I would imagine a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
It didn't seem very long.
A couple minutes of your time. You could put aside the video games. You've already done yours, Rod. So you didn't take the test, but you know what yours is. So yes. You can play your video game still.
Okay, thank you.
What's important? What do you want to grow?
And if it's growing a healthy relationship with those that mean the most to you, well, invest the time.
Right. Invest in those relationships.
Amen.
All righty, folks. Well, we did it again. Another episode brought to you by Bryce Runge,
Rod McCall.
Home Sweet Home.
Take care. Bye. See you next time.